Just waiting for Jim and Joe to give me some good news. It's 8 o'clock. Where are you guys? Waiting for my good news. Get your fat ass online already.
Well, they say it's not the X's and the O's, it's the Jimmies and the Joes.
It was a legitimate call. It made sense. It was pass interference. I don't care what anybody says. That was pass interference, offensive pass interference.
Yeah.
Get ready for 2 hours of hard-hitting football talk from two men in the know. It's Football on the Know with Jim and Joe.
And you can win under pressure when it's there. You call runs when you're not supposed to, and Dak Prescott is throwing it in the dirt.
You know, I'm convinced that Jameis Winston is going to have an ESPN special 30 for 30.
All right, what's going on, everybody? Welcome once again to another episode of Football on the Know. I am Jim McPhee, and alongside of me is Mr. Joe DeCapita.
What's going on, Know-It-Alls? Welcome back for another edition of Football on the Know Show. We are still here talking about football and can't wait to talk some more about some possible free agent pickups, maybe.
Oh, yeah, there's a lot of guys out there still. The pool is deep.
Still
you know what I'm
deep.
saying? So it's funny because
at one point we were, it was like 30 feet deep.
Yeah.
Full of free agents, and now we're starting to get to the shallow end a little bit.
And it's funny with the headlines going on, who's available. Everyone's talking about, the quarterbacks that were out there here and there and everywhere. Right. And out of everybody, Andy Dalton just recently got cut from the Cincinnati Bengals, seeing they did draft Joe Burrow like everybody thought they would here. And the questions were instantly, where's he going to go? Where's the fits?
Yeah.
Where's he going to start? And Jacksonville comes up. All these names come up where he could potentially go, the Patriots. And lo and behold, he signs with the Dallas Cowboys.
Yeah.
It is a shocker for some.
I'm surprised.
Because, you're talking about a guy who was a starter here, played well, with that organization. Always, the only thing he really got knocked on was, again, getting to the big game or winning playoff games here and there. Yeah. And he'd had off days, but then he'd have some stellar days. So, what is he exactly? How is he going to perform? Is he going to be? Is he really one of the upper echelon quarterbacks, or is it just average? And so you thought that when he got released, that he was going to look for that starting role. So Jacksonville, again, we talked about this last week, and I think it's pretty well known with a lot of people out there, too, who follow it.
Right.
That, yes, Gardner Minshew, it's a great story. And, yes, he did play well when he was called upon last year, but then again, it had times where he tapered off a bit, and you weren't sure. And even amongst all this, with Jacksonville talking to certain guys, too, you could see that maybe they weren't even exactly sold on this guy here to go into a season with him. And they didn't get the deal done here with Andy Dalton, and he chooses to go and sit behind Dak Prescott in Dallas.
Yeah, the craziest thing about it is that the Jaguars were fully prepared to lock him in and sign him. He chose Dallas, to a lot of people's surprises, and kudos to the Dallas Cowboys. I'll say they have one of the better backup quarterbacks who has experience in starting experience, who has played well at times. Most of the time in his career, he's done a really good job. Now, upper echelon quarterback? No, I don't consider him an upper echelon quarterback, but I consider him a really good one that can start for you, and you don't really have to worry about him. He returns back home, Andy Dalton. So he chose to go home versus elsewhere and possibly have a starting job. Now, basically, Andy Dalton has kind of mailed it in, saying, I'm cool with being a backup for at least 1 year. Signs a 1-year deal. And how is this going to unfold for him? Now, I am on the understanding that Andy Dalton chose Dallas because that's his home. That's where he's from, Texas. He wanted to be close to family, especially during this whole pandemic issue that we have going on. So signs only a 1-year deal, which, okay, fine. But you could have had an opportunity to play elsewhere and possibly start. Now you're basically the backup. That's it, to Dak Prescott. And we all know that Dallas and Stephen Jones and Jerry Jones are all they keep saying, we're going to get the deal done with Dak. We're going to get the deal done with Dak. We're going to get the deal done with Dak. It just sounds like a broken record at this point. They've spent months and months on trying to get the deal done, and still hasn't happened. So here comes Andy Dalton. Now, could Andy Dalton possibly pull off a Ryan Tannehill-esque type of scenario here and maybe be the future starter for the Dallas Cowboys in the near future. Maybe the Cowboys get upset and reach a certain threshold, a certain point where they're just fed up with trying to pay Dak Prescott an enormous amount of money just to keep him, rather than, hey, I mean, we have a starting caliber quarterback right here that we could just say we're going to pay him cheaper money and you can go try to fish for someone else's pockets. So, I mean, there's a lot of different things that can happen with Andy Dalton in Dallas, but I'm just confused. I really don't understand. I get the whole want to stay close to home deal and all that, but, man, seriously? Like, the Jaguars, we know the Jaguars are at least one of the other teams that were super interested in acquiring his services. And to be honest, that would have been a complete open quarterback competition as soon as he signed there. And I don't think he would have lost that job. I think he would have won that starting position in Jacksonville over Gardner Minshew. Now, what's to say? Now, we haven't heard anything or have heard anything confirmed, but maybe the Patriots were interested. Maybe they kind of dipped their toes in the pool there, and just to see, what kind of interest they could get. But man, I'm totally shocked by him going to Dallas for one, because it's not like they're looking to move on from Dak, just yet anyway. But he puts himself in a hole now. Because of signing this 1-year deal, yeah, okay, sure, he could still get out after a year and next year look for a possible starting quarterback position. However, is this now that he's kind of now he's okay with signing this 1-year deal as a backup? Is this just a prerequisite for him in the future where no team is going to see him as being a starter now? Now that he's just kind of welcomed the idea of being that backup.
Right. I mean, I completely understand you there, because for all purposes here, it makes sense here for the Dallas Cowboys, because if you look at him here, this is a grizzled veteran here, a 3-time Pro Bowler. He's got a winning record, 62% completion percentage, too many turnovers, but when you compare that to Dak Prescott, Dak Prescott is just playing so much better right now, and he is their young quarterback and has been their starter, has been the leader of their locker room. The only problem is here with them is I think this was a leverage signing kind of on the Dallas Cowboys hand
100%.
here, because even Stephen Jones has come out and said, he goes, I could sleep a little better tonight now. So he feels comfortable having this here now too as a backup plan, because yes,
insurance,
under
man.
the franchise tag, it's funny, they talk money here with Dak Prescott. He wants to be the highest paid, over $30 million. So under the franchise tag, he's going to be making $31.5 million right here in 2020 if he even signs it. He hasn't even signed it yet, so that's why they're kind of they're kind of cautious here, because he's asking for the big money. They grabbed Andy Dalton here just in case of anything goes on here, true starter in the NFL that they could have.
Right.
But like you said, the confusing part is Andy Dalton, you're going there. I understand your family's there. It's good to be back home.
Right.
Maybe you have kind of surrendered yourself to be maybe that backup role.
Yeah.
But if you're even going to do that, let's say, you have more value to be a veteran backup to a younger quarterback that needs help or needs maturing, that you can help him develop him along with it, to be that kind of mentor role too also. But to just not go to a team where you have a chance to start under a 1-year deal, because 1-year deals are usually that show it year.
Yeah, it's prove it deal.
You saw what happened with even with the quarterback here who signed with Teddy Bridgewater, who signed with the Carolina Panthers here. I mean, again, he signed his deal. He was just trying to get somewhere because he's been a backup quarterback since he went down with the injury. He got a chance to show himself here and what he could do those couple of weeks when Drew Brees was out. It was enough to get him a starting gig somewhere else. And now when you look at somebody like Andy Dalton, who's already been a starter for many years here, you want to show that you still have it and that you really shouldn't have been released by this team, and that you could perform somewhere else and lead them to a better record, possibly playoff berth or further on. You know what I mean? That person that they need, the one key to the puzzle.
Definitely.
So, I mean, it is interesting here. I knew it was going to be a surprise
team
perplexed
here. On this
one.
I
mean, it always is, because
I mean, that's the thing is I think it's brilliant. I mean, Stephen Jones to able to get to get a guy like Andy Dalton signed, and he's going to be your backup, not Cooper Rush. It's Andy freaking Dalton, who has been a starter since he was drafted. So yes, he's had, some bad days, but he's also had some great days, in the office. So there's a lot.
And he has the weapons there, too, in Dallas now, too, on top of it, too. So.
Yeah, you look at what he's walking into, and if he is going to step on the football field and play for the Cowboys, you got to like what he's got. Weapons. Are you kidding me? He lacked weapons in Cincinnati. Now he comes into a situation where, oh, my God, they just drafted CeeDee Lamb, out of Oklahoma, who was one of the projected top receivers in this draft. And he also has they re-signed Amari Cooper. He's there, and Michael Gallup. You got 3 potential top receivers to throw to and distribute the football, as well as, hey, don't forget, you got one of the best running backs in football right now, in Ezekiel Elliott right behind you. So a lot to like when you're going in there as a quarterback saying, okay, well, I got plenty of weapons here. I got nothing to worry about there. Their offensive line, we have seen decline slowly up since last year. So if they can shore that offensive line up a little bit better, then the protection's still going to be solid, don't get me wrong. But we've seen a better Cowboys offensive line in recent past, about 3 years ago, that were dynamite, electric. You lose Travis Fredericks, now that's a huge loss at center. So they're trying to find somebody to get in there. Hopefully maybe one of their rookie can step in there and become that starter that they're looking for. But overall, a nice scenario as a quarterback to go into. Unfortunately, you are a backup. And I think Andy Dalton rushed this decision. It seemed very, very to move extremely quick on him to sign. I think he should have paused a little bit and waited to see what other teams may come and call him and contact him. You already know Jacksonville was one of those teams that were really interested. The Cowboys were right away. But maybe if he sat out a week and a half, maybe 2 weeks, there might have been other teams that would have kept calling him to see where he was at. Maybe you get a better deal. Maybe you get a fair opportunity to start, but nonetheless, he goes to the Dallas Cowboys.
And I think it's a great fit too with the Mike McCarthy system too that they're going to be running there. I know Kellen Moore, he's still on the payroll here for the Dallas Cowboys here, and he has a big connection here with the progress of Dak Prescott here also, but he's going to integrate some of Mike McCarthy's scheme that he wants to do. And
it's going to be a lot of Mike McCarthy.
Yeah. So I think it's a great fit for him there too, along with the Dallas Cowboys though. But it's just definitely a surprise too, why on his end. But.
And just to your point there, that offense that Mike McCarthy is going to bring in, it's going to be interesting to see how this is all unveiled come 2020 season. Because is it going to be like we're used to seeing Mike McCarthy in the pass-heavy offense where there's not a lot of play action? It's pretty much like a drop back and throw the ball and get rid of the ball quickly. Or is it going to be more of a balanced offense, not so much run-heavy like we're used to seeing in Dallas, and more balanced where it's going to be half pass, half run?
Yeah, and the Cowboys, I think, just signed offensive lineman Cameron Irving to help out with that line a little bit too, but then that's another depth piece, so I mean – they're going to need a little bit of help there too, but they need to run the ball first and then have not the shoulders beyond Dak Prescott to progress. I think.
Oh,
for
it
that
might
team.
be,
but it might be. So maybe that's what you want. A little
better
pressure
show up, Dak.
extra pressure. So. All right, so also tonight we are going to jump into the available free agents too that are out there. Like he said, it's very deep pool out there. Let's hear from you guys too as well. What do you guys think about the Andy Dalton signing? If you agree, what do you think about the Cowboys? I think definitely the Cowboys won in that whole deal. Andy Dalton's a little bit of his head scratcher, but again, if he's more comfortable staying home and stuff, whatever, I can't tell him how to live his life and stuff. But all right, we're gonna roll right into our next available free agents. And let's get some music going here for this, Joe. All right, here we go. Obviously, the name everybody's talking about here is Cam Newton. Cam Newton's still out there, Joe. It's funny because you want to talk about somebody who maybe you thought should have just stayed out there a little longer, Andy Dalton, and stuff. But Andy Dalton just got released by his team. And days later, picked up just like that.
And that's the craziest thing about that is, like, we kind of put our heads together on this one. We're like, hey, what if Andy Dalton gets released? We already know that the Bengals are all in on Joe Burrow. Everybody knew that ahead of time. And it's like, what's going to happen with Andy? We already knew the Bengals owner is so, strict and is so condescending and doesn't want to be proved wrong. So he goes out of his way, and he's so stubborn to the point where we could have saw him just hold on to Dalton and be like, no, I'm going to pay you your salary, but you're going to be my backup, But he ends up getting released, and then we're like, okay, scenarios. Where are we thinking? We're thinking New England possibly. We're thinking Jacksonville possibly. By no means did we ever think about the Dallas Cowboys coming into this picture.
Right.
And that was a shock to not just us, but to a lot of people.
Yeah, so, I mean, Cam Newton now, he's still out there. Again, there's plenty of teams out there that could use him. Jacksonville's another name again. Patriots floating out there. We're not sure.
But doesn't this go to show you, like, it should show everybody now what NFL teams are thinking of a guy like Cam Newton. Cam Newton isn't young. He's not in his prime anymore. He's 31 years old. He's getting to the end of his career and just coming off major injuries. You know, his throwing shoulder, he had major surgery done on that last year. Now he's trying to fight to come back. He's had other injuries, back, knees, ankles, you name it, he probably has it. And at 31 years old, I mean, what are you really getting? You're getting a beat-up older veteran to come in, and if you plan on running any kind of a system that he used to run, I don't think he's going to hold up yet again. He's going to get injured, and you're out. You know, not to mention Cam Newton is one of the few guys out there that are holding on to the hope that they can make big-time dollars still. I got news for you, Cam. Nobody really wants you right now. They may be interested in you, but for the right price.
Yeah, I mean, definitely here. I mean, and that's the thing. You see his stats there, too. Not the best completion percentage, and also the touchdown to interception ratio is a little scary, and now also the injuries on top of it.
Right.
You know, so that's what it is, the surgeries, the injuries, and almost sort of, if you look at it, one MVP year where he just was great, the team clicked, and they had their chance to go to the Super Bowl. And how he performed, I think, in that game was a bit of a kind of a showing of what he was deep down inside, too, what kind of player he was. And that's part of it, too, I think, as well.
100%.
Greg Schreiner's in the house here, ladies and gentlemen.
What's going on, Greg?
Greg is in the house, and he says he can see Cam reuniting with McDermott here. Sean loves his previous players. Yeah, potentially, but I mean, how long are they going to sit out and wait for this guy then? If he really, thought that was a great fit
and the funny thing is nobody's going to know this, but maybe McDermott has already reached out to Cam. But the asking price for Cam still believes that he can make 20 plus, 25, million a year. I'm sorry, but you're beat up. You're a beat up quarterback. You're 31 years old. You've had ups and downs throughout your career. There's more questions to Cam Newton's game than there are answers, and I think maybe the Bills are interested. And I think that would be a good home for Cam Newton right now. You look at who they have backing up Josh Allen, Matt Barkley. Bills fans, Bills Mafia knows all about Matt, and they're not very fond of him. Are you, Greg? Matt Barkley, when he came in for an injured Josh Allen, he was absolutely atrocious. He threw it to the other team more than his own, and they could really use maybe a veteran quarterback like Cam to come in, but he has to be on the cheap.
And they also have Davis Webb there and Jake Fromm they grabbed late in the fifth of this season or this year. And with the weapons that they have there, I know it would be, enticing, I think, for some fans if you want to think about it. If you're a Buffalo fan, and now you saw what kind of Cam Newton could do with the players he had at times. Like Kelvin Benjamin looked good at times, here and there. We know he's had a turn, like a revolution of people run through there. But now you've got John Brown, Stephon Diggs here, and then Cole Beasley in the slot. I mean, that's a great setup right there over in Buffalo.
And just to touch on real quick, Jake Fromm, I'm high on Jake Fromm. I liked him coming out of college. Maybe not as good as the top 4 or 5 guys that were there, but Jake Fromm to me, I think, could definitely develop over time, and he's already got an accuracy. And that's one thing you have to have in anticipation in the NFL. So Jake Fromm, I definitely could see him working his way up the ladder, so to speak, and maybe becoming the day one backup to Josh Allen if he gets down the playbook and so forth. Also, Zach Moss, at running back, who I think was a steal in the draft for Buffalo. Watch out for him as well.
Yeah, definitely. So who knows with Cam? Again, I still even think maybe there's a shot for Los Angeles again, but maybe at this point,
I don't think so.
Maybe teams are just settling.
Not at all.
And I think for a few weeks here, as we figure out, the schedule is going to be set out tomorrow night, at 8 o'clock.
8 o'clock
I think
tomorrow,
it is.
yep.
And I think as teams start to feel out how this is going to go within the next couple of months here with the pandemic and everything, and what games might be played or not. I mean, they've already said they're not doing international games at all.
Nope,
so that's moving
those,
away.
yeah.
So I think, like you had brought up before with the Patriots, they like to get their guys, sign them to their deals right away, get everything straightened out, all the money and stuff, so they don't have to worry about that anymore. I think teams maybe will see that fall suit with a lot of these guys, get who they need, and maybe it's a late pickup if one of their quarterbacks happens to go down or something like that.
And that's what would have to happen.
Let's give
at
him
this
a
point.
chance.
Unless they're a team, and there's definitely been teams that have contacted Cam's camp, if you will, and have kind of dabbled with the negotiation and the talks and how much are you looking for and so forth. But Cam right now is just asking for way too much.
I think. Yeah,
and
you got to think about that on his side.
You also saw Jameis Winston and how he has a deal. It was Cam and Jameis out there. Who's going to sign first? Well, it just made all the most sense in the world for Jameis to sign first. He's still in his prime, still has something to offer, is accurate at, he does throw an accurate ball. He does do things. Yeah, he's made some dumb mistakes, in terms of decision making and stuff. Those things can be corrected. Now he's going to learn under some of the best. Drew Brees, he's going to be the backup to. He's going to learn from him. He's also going to learn from one of the best coaches to ever do it, in Sean Payton. So he landed in the perfect spot for himself. And for Cam, he's on the wrong side of his age. And unless a quarterback gets hurt, and he still has to drop his price significantly.
Absolutely. And I think there's some murmurings now, or some people are trying to throw race into it. I don't think it's a race thing why you're not signing Cam Newton.
That's why Winston got signed?
Yeah, Winston got signed. I mean, for you to try and throw that in there, I think that's just a cop-out, and you're maybe just trying to get this guy a job. I don't know. But I think that's, completely dumb. All right, so now moving on to the next day. Again, talk about big money. This guy, Jadeveon Clowney here. This guy came in with a big asking price here of over $20 million, and now he's said
pay
16,
me 20.
17 maybe. And he's in the talk still of maybe possibly coming back to Seattle here. But again,
I don't see that
they've got to
happening.
see the money hit there and stuff. But he's always going to paint himself looking good. I mean, that's all he's doing. He's coming out. He's like, well, yeah, I'm in favor of coming back to them.
Of
I'm like,
course.
yeah, I'm
Pay
sure
me
you
more
are.
money.
That's
Yeah.
great. But I mean, you got to understand what we're looking at here, money wise, and what you were able to do. Yes, you looked really good for Seattle when you played for them on that 1-year deal, but. Again, people kind of know what you come with too. So
like
I mean,
what, 8-9 sacks?
Yeah.
Year?
I mean, as a centerpiece. That's what I mean. He wants to be paid like star money.
You got to make double digits, bro.
You're like not a centerpiece. You're like that nice extra piece to go along with the team. You know what I'm saying? And just people aren't willing to throw it out there like that. You know what I'm saying?
No, I mean, you look at his production. I mean, come on. Like, if you want to be paid like a Khalil Mack, you know what I mean?
Yeah, that's what I mean.
You have to be such a difference maker that you're getting 12, 13, 14, 15 sacks, maybe more than that. Look at J.J. Watt in his age.
Yeah,
he still can. If he's healthy, he can still produce for the Texans. And that's something that we're not seeing consistently from Clowney, which is the reason why this guy is not going to get that big of a deal. He's got to come down. Now, we've already heard rumors of him saying, okay, I'll come down a little bit, maybe 17 or 18 million a year. Nah, dude, you're going to have to come down even farther than that. Teams are not going to sign you because you get between 6 and 9 sacks a season. That's not playmaker, material. You gotta bring double digits into the loop here and consistently. And listen, he was the number 1 overall pick in his draft. Okay, so if you're the number 1 overall, you got to be such a difference maker and a playmaker that. Later on, when these contract situations come up, these negotiations, there's no question. They're going to give you the money. That's what you saw with Khalil Mack, how much of a difference he's made. And his versatility. He can play linebacker or D-end. Clowney, what can you do? You can only play D-end. That's all I've ever seen you do. You can stand up as a linebacker and rush the quarterback, but you can't cover. I mean, he's very athletically gifted, and he does make an impact against the run, plays well against the run. However, we need to see consistency. We need to see work ethic improve, and we need to see you day in and day out every Sunday, and we haven't seen that from you.
Absolutely. If you look back at his days with Houston, I mean, he was averaging about 9 to 9.5 sacks a year.
And that's with Watt on the other side.
Yeah, absolutely. That's what I mean. As
and Whitney Merciless.
Side piece. Last year, like you said, he ticked down. He's only got 3 sacks last year. He did have an interception.
Wow.
4 forced fumbles. And I think that's the thing that is kind of
he's up and down all the time.
It's kind of screwed. I don't even know what the word is, but I don't
make up one.
It does this.
Construed.
Contorted, screwed.
Construed.
Damn thing. He was all over the ball last year. That's what you want to say. He was wherever the ball was kind of go. He was there. Maybe to make a tackle. Maybe to force the fumble. Maybe to have a QB pressure. But it didn't really accumulate to to be that big star threat. Because if you look at Seattle's defense, what's the big name on there? You can say it right there. I mean, Bobby Wagner, boom. He's a 99 in Madden. Bobby Wagner's absolutely a Pro Bowler, boom. Second, KJ Wright, boom. Shaq Griffin, boom. I mean, so many other playmakers there. Jadeveon Clowney was, again, just that
Douglas
extra
McDougal.
piece on top of, with that whole thing. So as far as asking for the money, that's the only reason why he's not getting picked up right now. And
the other
why
thing, too,
he's kind of saying, I'm willing to talk to Seattle.
Exactly.
They're the ones willing to talk to you right now.
But the thing, too, about him is he hasn't been the healthiest guy either. So injury concerns come into fold as well. I mean, he's been injured throughout his career, hasn't been the healthiest guy as well. So if that production isn't consistent and you can't stay on the football field, you're going to have a hard time when you're asking those kinds of numbers to make a team. Listen,
Absolutely.
He's got tons of interest. It's not, no one. It's not like no one is interested.
No one wouldn't mind him on the team.
Being on the team because he can make plays. But sorry, man, you got to get on board here. You're asking way too high, way too high.
We want to talk about another person that made a lot of money here. Let's look over at our next guy, Devonta Freeman, the running back from the Atlanta Falcons here. He's out there still. I mean, it's kind of funny that they were able to just unload him with the contract that he had, and then now they have Todd Gurley as their running back. But again, that could be potentially disastrous because maybe we're unsure of what that injury kind of was to him, how healthy he is again, because we didn't see the Todd Gurley that we really kind of knew for the last couple of years. So last season.
Last season, definitely.
Yeah, last season, definitely not.
That's the thing, too, is they weren't using him either. So everybody was concerned because all of a sudden the Rams stopped using him as much as they have in the past. And, and that's where you started to hear the rumors about, is his knees okay? He had problems in college. Are they reoccurring now? And some of that may be true. Maybe he had some soreness in his knees at one point or another. But when he did get the workload, it seemed like he was playing just fine. It didn't seem like he was limping off the football field after the game. So now he gets – listen, the Falcons say that they have all the confidence in the world in his playmaking ability. They're not worried about him being injured, and that they definitely could see him playing and having a long-term career with the Falcons. They do have to re-sign him after this year, though. So it's more like a prove-it thing for them.
Yeah.
But in the same light, hey, if he stays healthy, you got yourselves a playmaker for like nothing.
Yeah, and as far as Devonta Freeman here, when he got that bigger contract, that's what they were kind of banking on here. When if you look at his best year, say 2016, 2015, 11 touchdowns, over 1,000 yards. I think it was 1,079 something. That was their main player there, and they even had Tevin Coleman on that team. They were kind of like a 1-2 punch here with the Atlanta Falcons. And then you saw last year, he had an injury. He only played 2 games. He was out. They're banged up all around. So then last year, now he gets 14 games in. He's the sole running back to where we said this is where we get a chance to see what it looks like. Maybe he's going to step up, be that, sole running back that they needed to be, because Tevin Coleman went to San Francisco, and he only mustered up 656 yards or so, 2 touchdowns. Wasn't really living up to his contract at what they're.
That's because they were behind all the games all the time. They had to throw the ball more. They couldn't run it. And unfortunately for him, he wasn't able to display, how good he could be for them. Also, you look at the injuries on their offensive line were absolutely atrocious. Both the rookies went down. There was a lot of problems last season for Freeman to even show what his capability could be for Atlanta. But he gets released, and now he's out there in the open. And I'm sorry, but if you're a team looking for depth at running back or something like that, this guy could be the answer to all your questions. Devontae Freeman, he is a physical guy. He can catch out of the backfield. He can make people miss. He can break tackles. He can do it all. So if you're looking for him not as a full-time starter, but maybe to rotate him in with your starting running back, I think he would be an excellent signing for somebody.
Yeah, absolutely, too. I agree with you there. I mean, that's the thing now. This guy, even though he wasn't worth that contract or what they were getting here for Atlanta, because they needed to also pay some other guys here that they don't.
Definitely.
They have their star players that are on the, come up for them. So he could fit this nice for a lot of teams. I mean, look at some of the other guys that just might need an extra running back. I mean, I think
you look at Jacksonville Jaguars.
Yeah.
Like, Leonard
that's
Fournette.
True too.
Listen, Leonard Fournette, he got his fifth-year, option on his contract denied. They don't want him in Jacksonville. They're looking to trade him. We knew this 2 years ago. They were looking for somebody to trade from. Nobody's taken the bait yet, but they might be asking for too much in compensation. Yeah. That's probably most likely what it is. But he's still there. They're still trying to trade him. They have until the trade deadline now before he'll become a free agent after the season if they can't deal him. But what's to say that maybe they bring in a guy like Devontae Freeman? Maybe if they can't get a trade done or whatever, they'll have a nice, tandem in the backfield there with Freeman and Fournette. I mean, that could be something special there for Jacksonville. And as an insurance, policy for them, they bring in Freeman. He could start for them if they need him to be.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, if you look at, say, even the Washington Redskins, let's look at them. They've got aging Adrian Peterson there still as their starting running back.
They like him a lot.
You know what I mean? And Darius Geis here, can he stay healthy?
That's the big question.
Yeah, they grabbed Antonio Gibson this season in the draft, but again, they have been having that injury bug or issue with running back. And you're relying on an old Adrian Peterson, which has been playing well, but say you spell Adrian Peterson, because he's not a smash mouth. He's a finesse guy. He can make some moves here and there, but he's not really a smasher.
Pretty physical.
Well, I don't know about that.
Really?
But, yeah, I don't think so. Not so much.
You look at his career, man. He's broken tackles left and right, knocked guys off.
I mean, maybe but he's not known for it. Say you put Devonta Freeman next to him, though, and you say Devonta Freeman, run him, then run Adrian Peterson. You get longevity out of Adrian Peterson and what he could do. Then he could be that physical guy, and you've got Devonta Freeman here too, who's another great piece, and a 1-2 punch on top of Terry McLaurin here, in the receiving core, and maybe that helps Dwayne Haskins here at the quarterback have a nice two running back tandem, and so he doesn't have to throw so much, and it's productive for them.
Yeah, I mean, if you're going to bring him in to rotate with AP and all that works out great for them. But man, I mean, that would be another scary backfield if you get them both there.
Yeah, but again, money talks, so who knows? Maybe the money's not there right now.
That's the thing too, is you gotta remember, because even though there's fits out there for these teams, is they do have to still worry about the cap. They still have to stay under the cap level, and some teams aren't able to sign some of these guys that they would love to. Now, as long as some of these free agents have sat out there, guess what? The asking prices drop. The agents start to get a little concerned. Is my guy going to get on a team? What we have to drop the asking price. Got to drop it until it fits a team's, until a team is comfortable saying, okay, we can afford that. Let's go ahead and see if we can get them. So, but yeah, I mean, there's definitely plenty of options still if you need depth or if you need someone to maybe come in for 1 year. Still can make it happen.
Definitely. So, I mean, that's another running back that's out there. I mean, I know you can get one through the draft. A lot of teams aren't even thinking much of the running back positions. I think, too, since they've seen what's happened with the Todd Gurley signing, the bigger money here and there. So now I think teams are kind of afraid.
That's funny. Bigger money. He's getting paid half his salary by the Rams.
Yeah.
So the Atlanta Falcons really aren't paying him nothing.
No, they're not. But I'm just saying what happened with the Rams. Now the Rams are still paying half the salary. and now the Falcons are covering the rest, but they don't want that to happen to them too, possibly. So. Yeah, I mean, especially the Redskins, they should know all about that right now, but with the injured running backs. But moving on to another guy out there that I was surprised even, too, that the Giants didn't hold on to is Marcus Golden here. He was their best productive defensive last year in, a season that wasn't very good. But, I mean, that defense kind of held them together at times, except for the terrible secondary. Secondary was just a leaky sieve, and that's what ended up being their downfall, I think, in a lot of that. And then once Daniel Jones went in there, he started off with a few good games, getting the throws out there. But in the tougher, closer games to where there was a tougher defense on the other side and allowing the offensive line, which was pretty bad, especially Nate Solder, allowing the penetration, he didn't have that pocket presence to where he's holding the ball out there, and it was just getting given away. Just here you go, take it. Taking so many turnovers by Daniel Jones. I think Jameis Winston would have been jealous of how many turnovers he had. You know what I mean? So
I don't know. Winston, I think, has the lead still.
Yeah. So, I mean, just say it.
He could have been a close second, though.
Maybe, but I mean, talks you hear now is like maybe he's the Giants have been in communication here with Marcus Golden still. We hear maybe the Detroit Lions maybe are looking to take him in, but I mean,
yeah, they're always looking for
a guy
rushers.
Who's been all over the ball, and last year on a team again that was pretty inadequate. He was a big playmaker, and even some other guy, a player that had other players around him that are injured to where he had to step up and do it. He was that shining star for the Giants, and I'm surprised I don't see him on a team yet.
Yeah, I'm absolutely shocked about Marcus Golden still being available. Now, he's not like 33 years old or anything like that. So, was he 28? Well, how old is he?
He's 29.
29. Yeah, he's 29 years old. I mean, he's still got 2-3 years, good years, left in him. Mm-hmm. One of the underrated pass rushers in this league. He kind of gets overlooked almost every time he's a free agent, and yet again he's getting overlooked. He's played very admirably for the New York Giants this past season. Mm-hmm. Was amazing for them, getting, I don't even know, what do you have?
He had 10 sacks last year.
So, I mean,
27 QB hits.
Exactly.
You know what
I mean, the guy, he creates pressure all by himself. Whatever team, I mean, I think if you could put him in a 3-4 outside linebacker role to rush off the edge, or put him in at 4-3 DN, we've seen that, from time to time with the Giants. He is a playmaker. He's a good pass rusher for someone, and especially now, you could get this guy on the cheap, bring him in, rotate him in if you want. You don't need to start him. Just rotate him in and just watch him work.
He also had a fumble recovery for a touchdown, too, as well. And,
see, always on the ball.
I mean, if you wanted to put it in perspective here, you've got Jadeveon Clowney here, who pretty much plays the same position, asking for bigger money. He had a lot less production last year.
Right.
And this guy who's still out there probably isn't asking nowhere near the same amount. And they're roughly the same.
He just wants to be on a team now.
Clowney is 2 years younger than him, but I mean, you're getting value. The team's always talking about value pickups. This is a guy you get great value here. Who knows where he could land again? Maybe I think it's a great pickup for any team. The Detroit Lions, the Giants. I wanted them to grab him back, but maybe I could see him also going to another team that possibly needs a hole filled there.
Hell, I mean, any team. If you got money left over, you should be calling this guy. You need. There's no such thing as having too many pass rushers on your team.
Maybe even Jacksonville at this moment, with the way everybody wants to abandon ship, bring him in there, to help.
Hey, that's Jacksonville's fault.
Yeah, I know.
They're just dealing, wheeling and dealing.
I hear you there. So Marcus Golden, by the way, let us know what you guys think. I mean, you guys think
absolutely, guys. Come
we're
on,
just throwing it out there, different ideas, and what do you guys think about maybe potential landing spots for these guys here? Jadeveon Clowney, is he even going to go anywhere? Where will he be? Marcus Golden here. Great players that are still in this pool that we're just bringing up to just
I really think that you could get Marcus Golden for like $5 million, 1 year deal, $5 million, maybe even less. I mean, that's the thing is the longer that these free agents sit out there, the cheaper they get. And if you were going to pay a guy $3, $4, $5 million per year versus having to pay a guy $16 million a year like Clowney, more production out of Golden
Yeah.
than Clowney.
Yeah,
so.
absolutely. So I mean, if you try, I'm trying to look on over the cap and see what he possibly made last year, but come on, there we go. Let's take a look what he did. They're not going to show me. 2019, he made $975,000 with a roster bonus
So
of
he made $1 million bucks.
$1.2 million. He made $1 million. So
That's it.
yeah, like you said, $5 million. That's based off of your production. Here you go, and even throw some
But now you
incentives
don't.
in there.
But even with this production, you still don't have to pay $5 million. I mean,
Yeah.
if he only made $1 million,
Yeah, that's
you
true.
could give him a slight raise,
give him
$2.5, $3 million.
Mhm.
He'll be happy to sign that right now.
Yeah,
no
absolutely,
problem.
definitely. Yeah, so I mean, Marcus Golden's still out there. It's somebody to look out for. Perhaps we'll see
Some of
guys
these free
picked up.
agents, I just can't. I can't.
Yeah.
I don't know
hear it.
how to word it here because it's amazing to me that some of these talented free agents are still available, and there are teams that could still use the depth and have the money, and they still sit there.
We've got Mike Tackett's in the house. Clowney and Newton are still free agents for a reason. Speaks volume when teams
absolutely.
elect to go with a younger, lesser-known player in favor of household names. And I think maybe that's what happens sometimes with these free agents. I mean, you got a lot of household names here too, but
For sure.
some of them are aging here and there. And then the younger ones, that's where you have your question marks maybe with some of them. Where are they going? What have they been doing? The injuries. So, I mean, I can understand what he's saying even too. Cam Newton, Clowney, maybe one, they're asking too much money.
Absolutely asking too much money.
Yeah. So, two, again, they could be potential problems. Cam Newton, you've seen him sometimes, the way he acts off the field. I mean, he's not a problem, but he's a little different.
But here's the thing: is it's got to concern teams out there. Is like, do they want the circus? Because basically, he's like a big fashionista type guy. He loves his fashion, as odd as it may look. He likes wearing all these different outfits and drawing attention to himself. And don't get me wrong, he's drawing attention to himself because, he wants people to pay attention to him. But at the same time, he does, on the other hand, he does, charitable foundations and stuff, hangs out with kids and does some nice things.
Great.
However, Cam is the worst at press conferences. I mean, it's almost like he doesn't have enough self-confidence in himself to stand up to the media and own it. When he screws up, hey, admit you screwed up and face that fear of being,
he's almost too
scrutinized.
honest and like kind of wears every game on his sleeve in a sense. Yeah, because again, a lot of people want to say, well, we get the cookie cutter answer, that's whatever. But deep down inside, I think a lot of these other media types and other people, at least they still want to hear that. They want to hear the positivity. They want to say, well, yeah, we got to work on it. I know I got to play better, and then we can, move forward. Blah, blah, blah. Cut it off. Boom. Not,
right.
Yeah, I don't know. I didn't play it too well.
Or get up and walk out.
What am I doing anymore? Why am I waking up?
Or get up and walk out.
Yeah. So, I mean, who knows? But, yeah. So, I mean, Cam Newton, Clowney out there still. We brought up Marcus Golden. Mike Tackett, what do you think about Marcus Golden? Do you think he's got another landing spot to go? I mean, he originally played with Arizona, and that's where he kind of took off essentially.
Yeah.
Took a tick down, the year prior, and then that's when he goes to the Giants. But, again, productive player, still a little younger. He's 29. Still, again, 10
still
sacks.
Can make it happen.
So we'll see what happens moving forward here. Let's bring up another guy here that's still out there, and this could be potentially one of the other names that are controversial here. And we've got Eric Reed. Eric Reed's still out there. He's 28 years old here still, too, also as a free safety. And so I don't think you need to, if you're a little older, I mean, and that's not even that old for a free safety. I mean, we saw Malcolm Jenkins convert from a corner to a safety and play great. I mean, he might have even been a better safety than he was corner. I mean, he was playing outrageous here for the Eagles. So you've got Eric Reed, who was a former San Francisco 49er, played with the Carolina Panthers, and I think potentially some of this is the whole race thing that comes up. We talked about it before, and people want to say maybe that Cam Newton's not getting signed because of race. I'd say maybe you could draw that line with Eric Reed, and it's not because he's black, it's just because or the African American. And I mean, I don't want to bother anybody there, but I mean, it's because he's partnered himself on the same line as Colin Kaepernick, who a lot of people see as being blackballed from the league as well. And I think that's maybe why a couple of teams are shying away from him as well.
Here's the thing with Eric Reid is, he's caused his own problems. He really has. I'm sorry. He just has. I'm not saying because he's spoken up about social, injustice and that kind of movement and all that. I'm not saying that, but it just seems like he's always complaining. No matter what team he's on, he's complaining about the hierarchy of the NFL, Roger Goodell, and the owners, and it's almost like he's trying to make himself the public enemy in the NFL. And because of that, listen, there's a certain way to handle your business in the NFL, and he is not doing it the correct way. It's that simple. Because you're speaking out loud against the owners and against Roger Goodell and trying to take on all these guys like they're your enemies. Listen, they're the ones that pay you your paycheck. And Eric Reid, listen, I understand he was trying to be compared to Colin Kaepernick. He's best friends with him, and they're both trying to do the same kind of, same kind of movement and everything. That wasn't the reason why Colin Kaepernick didn't get signed. Teams just didn't feel like he has enough to offer a team. So Eric Reid, he ends up getting back into the NFL, signs with the Panthers, plays with them, and now he's a free agent again. And teams aren't come calling because I just think the NFL owners and coaches and they're just tired of the constant noise that he brings to a locker room, to a team. So I think that's why he's still out there, is because of his own past transgressions and creating a little bit of turmoil when he doesn't need to. Just show up, earn your paycheck, play ball, and if you want to address social injustice or whatever you want, do that on your own time. Listen, we've seen Anquan Bolden, who also was 100% all for social injustice and wanted to fight for it and everything. He left the NFL, retired, done, retired right away, even though he was already signed for another year with the Buffalo Bills, retired on the spot and said, I'm going to go do something about this right now, and left the NFL and took care of his business. Eric Reid, I just think it's a lot of the way he's handled these situations, and that's why it's rubbing some of these teams the wrong way.
And I'm even I'm looking through trying to find even a roster he might fit on where it's a great fit. I mean, some of these other teams have younger free safeties here.
Right.
So it's tough. So, I mean, they're maybe still sticking with these guys. I thought maybe even the Jets might pick him up, put alongside of Jamal Adams. I know they were even trying to trade him, but maybe they would help keep him here by getting another veteran there next to him in that backfield.
And that scenario could play out because Jamal Adams, I don't think is going anywhere. Just so you know.
Yeah.
Yes, there's been trade rumors out there before, but they keep getting squashed. Like the owners come out, the GM has come out, the coach has come out, and keep saying he's not going anywhere. He is our franchise player. He is the guy, the face of the organization. Not going nowhere. But his counterpart that plays right alongside him, Marcus May, who is young, still in his prime, a good safety. They're looking to move him right now.
There you go. I mean,
so
who knows?
Maybe Eric Reid could get a phone call, and he fits that defense. So maybe that scenario could happen.
Yeah.
If they're able to deal May, watch for Eric Reid's name to resurface.
Yeah, definitely. Mike Tackett chimes in. He says Malik Hooker will be picked up before Eric Reid. Probably, again, because Hooker is a decent player with less of a crazy background and less distractions, I think, for a team.
Yeah, right? I mean, Malik Hooker, he has to get to free agency first. And we already seen the inkling that the Indianapolis Colts aren't 100% confident in him. They've declined his fifth-year option on his rookie deal. So it really does look like he's headed to free agency unless he happens to get traded. Malik Hooker, there was rumors before the draft that they were looking to trade him. So he's on the trade block right now from the Colts. So if another team maybe is that interested and they give up a draft pick or whatever have you, could be traded as well.
Yeah, and then he also says here, which is a great point here, if Myles Garrett gets $25 million a year like he wants, it'll open up Pandora's box for DNs. No wonder why Leonard Williams wanted to be classified as a DN instead of a D tackle during the franchise tag here.
Yeah, and that's
absolutely. I mean, that's a big difference.
Yeah, and that's the thing. That's why Leonard Williams is suing now to see that the declaration that the Giants put a D tackle declaration on him to pay him less versus D end. And this is kind of a murky situation for the Giants because he's in a 3-4 system. He should be a 3-4 DN. Now, does that mean if you're a 3-4 DN that you should be seen as a D end in general? Like in a 4-3, Leonard Williams is a D tackle. But in a 3-4, he is classified as a D end. Now that's what he's fighting for to make more money. And in the whole situation with Myles Garrett, and that's a big one. You're right, Mike. It will open Pandora's box. And here's the other problem too: is you know how I feel about paying guys more, paying a position way more than or meeting that quarterback role. Quarterbacks now they're getting paid way more than I think any quarterback should be paid. When you're getting paid $30+ million now, I'm sorry, cap going up or not, I think that's getting absolutely insane. Now you're closing in on your cap space shrinking tremendously quicker because of those big contracts just going to QBs, which, mind you, is the most important position in football. Now you're going to be paying something close on with your D end. I know defensive ends are very important to pressure the quarterback, to get sacks, to make plays happen for your defense. But when you're rivaling, some of these DNs are going to be rivaling quarterback contracts. That just is insane to me, and that's something that I think the owners do not want to happen, is to get to that point, because when it opens this Pandora's box, like Mike is saying, cap room is going to just deteriorate rapidly. There's going to be tons of cutting going on, renegotiating of contracts, because teams aren't going to be able to keep up with everything.
Right.
And we talk about, like, just for example, the Cowboys. How are they going to hold on to all the pieces? You got Jalen Smith coming up next year for his contract, but they just paid a boatload of money to Amari Cooper. They want to keep Dak Prescott. They paid a lot of money to Ezekiel Elliott. You can only go so far until you're saying, well, we just can't afford it.
Yeah, you have to pay your say what, 3 to 5 max start players, and then the rest is just jumbled all in together. So will you be able to get those guys and get the most out of that within a few years before it crumbles apart? Yeah, that's basically what you have.
And we've already seen Byron Jones, their best corner.
Right.
He left to free agency. They couldn't afford to keep him. That door is just going to keep
We kind of saw that, too, with the way the Rams had worked. They grabbed and signed deals with this guy, that guy, and made their rush to try and get to the Super Bowl. They made it there, fell a little short, and now you see where they're trying to scramble around, unload parts here to try and regroup, and that's what we see might happen with a few teams here, other not named the Patriots. Right. But he also says, Mike Tackett says, remember when Jimmy Graham played for the Saints?
100%.
And then he tried to make the same argument that he should be paid as a wide receiver.
Right.
I feel that he had a better case than Williams. Because it's tougher, I think, for an offensive player. Or defensive player, rather, because it's easier to distinguish when a tight end is being used as a wide receiver to make plays happen.
Yeah.
But I think, say, like a D tackle playing DN here, it's scheme based.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
It is. Yeah, absolutely. I get what he's saying, though. It's kind of like an analogy, like he had a better argument because he was being used
he was there,
more of a
player.
slot receiver than he was a tight end at times. So I get what he's saying for that argument, and it does make sense. However, it is scheme-based, like you're right. I think you're both right in this scenario.
Right.
So,
I think we were kind of agreeing in a sense.
Jimmy Graham, listen, he got drafted as what? A tight end, correct?
Yeah.
What did Leonard Williams get drafted as? A D tackle. So I feel that if you have been drafted as said position, so like for Leonard Williams, we'll just say D tackle. If you were drafted as a D tackle, then whether it's scheme-based or not, and they're moving you around to 3-4 D end or 4-3 D tackle, what have you, you were drafted as a D tackle. I think that should carry on through your career unless you make a major change and just say you're a 4-3 D end for the majority of it.
Right.
For Jimmy Graham, that's the same thing. He got drafted as a tight end. He was used as a tight end. Yes, a lot of times for the Saints, he was used as a slot receiver because the guy was just God-gifted of an athlete. And that's why when you see these financial hardships that teams are facing and these tough scenarios that come up, like I should be paid like a running back. I should be paid like a receiver. This is the kind of gray area that teams fall into, and they kind of have to battle it out with the player. And in the end, it doesn't work for the player at all. Jimmy Graham tested the waters with the Saints, and it was the first real kind of standoff between the player and team. And we've seen how that's worked out for the team versus the player. Jimmy Graham gets shipped off, goes to Seattle, disappears off the face of the earth, goes to Green Bay, still irrelevant. And the rest of his career is nothing. So the same thing could happen with Leonard Williams. He better be careful. Maybe you shouldn't poke the bear, so to speak, on this one. Maybe you should just be happy that you're making the money that you are and move forward.
Yeah, I mean, and like you said, though, here with Jimmy Graham, he tried, but and we see a great example here of where the team was right in a sense. They said, no, we're not paying you as a receiver. He goes somewhere else. And have we really even seen that same type of guy? So, I mean, maybe even then I could prove myself wrong in a sense that too, because maybe it was the scheme over there in New Orleans, that made him that succstill there too.
Well, they utilized the tight end.
But yeah, they did.
And you see that right now with Jared Cook. He's an aging tight end, but he's still getting open,
right,
still throwing the ball to him.
And as far as the D tackle D end now I say maybe the way he can state his case is you take a look at the depth chart now. If you want to say if they run and they say they place him that he is in this scheme, the 3-4, our defense, he is our D end, then you could say, well, Dave Wested me as their D end, then I should get paid as their D end. You know what I mean? That right there, I would say there's your physical your evidence, and you can see what happened on the field. So if that's what he's taking to court, who knows? But again, it's a tough battle. You're going against billionaires in the team. It's tough to win those battles.
That's the other. That's the craziest thing, and that's where the argument begins for D linemen.
And the player always
because
loses.
D ends are seen as D tackles in 4-3s. You know what I mean? And basically, they're defensive tackles that are playing a D end position in a 3-4 because they just need to take on bodies. So that's going to be an interesting scenario. We'll have to wait and see how that all pans out for the Giants.
Absolutely. We're talking about available free agents out there, so go ahead and give us even some names out there if you think they're interesting to talk about. One guy we want to bring up here next, too, that's still out there is Carlos Hyde. This guy has been still kind of sneakily productive here and there, but still bouncing from team to team.
Yeah.
And when you're looking at fits possibly, it made me think of something here. Frank Gore just got an opportunity in Buffalo. If Greg Schreiner's out here, what's your take on this here?
Frank Gore just signed another
that's right.
deal
He just
with
did.
the Jets.
That's right, with the Jets. He just went to the Jets. Yep. Now leaving Buffalo, he went to the Jets now. That's right, because I thought this was interesting here now. What's their take with that with Le'Veon Bell now? There's weird conflicting issues here with the Jets with this one.
And we've also heard the Jets being rumored last year to moving from Bell and his contract.
Right.
Because they're like, wow, we shouldn't have paid him this much. How about you should have invested in an offensive line before you got Bell?
Right, yeah. So he goes to the Jets, and then you've got Le'Veon Bell there. And then they released Eli McGuire last year. I think it was a year before, which I thought was kind of crazy because I thought he was very productive.
Yeah.
So you've got this old guy who's been playing well. He gets an opportunity.
Hey, be nice. Call him veteran.
Yeah, okay, this guy. All right. He's got some records out there, too, but it's probably because he's played so long.
Yeah,
but,
that's right.
No, and he's good. Don't get me wrong. But Carlos Hyde is out there, is obviously younger, but still productive. And he used to play for the Jets before, too, and was productive with them. Why not have another 1-2 punch here with them? I mean, maybe he's the same kind of style as Le'Veon, but he's not Le'Veon. I mean, Le'Veon's obviously him.
No, yeah.
But I think the understanding that the Jets want is to relieve some of that pressure, because we saw last year, and we called it, that say, Le'Veon Bell going there. I know a lot of Jets fans were like, oh, here we go. Super Bowl, Le'Veon, yeah. He was going to be the main focus. He was basically the only weapon that you had. What did you think teams were going to do when you handed it off, or he's there? You're like, we're going to stop him. That makes Sam Darnold, who actually wasn't even there because he had mono, So what? Luke Falk, I think, was the guy there who was one of
terrible.
One of the ex-Miami guys, knew the system. Throw into Robbie Anderson and another hodgepodge of wide receivers that were getting in and out of injury. So how was that going to work? So I think their idea here is to get another veteran in there, maybe even a little ground and pound, mix it up to relieve that stress on Le'Veon. But who knows? Maybe it is this is the veteran we want, and maybe get rid of Le'Veon. I don't know. It's an interesting situation over there.
It is. It definitely is. And that's the thing that's crazy is, like, unless you got a trade partner, you don't sign this Frank Gore. I'm sorry. Why not Carlos Hyde?
Yeah.
Why not?
I don't get it.
He's younger. He's he's physical. He's a guy that you could tandem up with Le'Veon Bell. That'd be a nice, backfield right there for them. And for Le'Veon Bell, I mean, nobody's starting over him. I mean, he's one of the best still. Yeah, okay, he had a down year last year, but listen, if you don't have the offensive line to block for you, Bell is just as good as his offensive line, just like any other running back. People think that these guys that become phenomenal running backs are just great by themselves. No, they need to have a great offensive line in front of them. You look at Zeke with the Dallas Cowboys. Zeke early on was phenomenal. Zeke is still a great player, but as we saw as the season went, the offensive line started to get injuries, then started playing poor play, and with poor offensive blocking led to Zeke not getting as many rushing yards. So it goes hand in hand both ways, guys. That's why this is the ultimate team sport, not individual sport. So Carlos Hyde, I'm absolutely amazed that he's still out there. Another guy, like, I was high on Devontae Freeman. I really do like Freeman. But Carlos Hyde's another guy that I really like, who I think deserves a roster spot, and at least to rotate him in. You don't necessarily have to start him, but, this is another guy that, listen, Jacksonville, you got your choices here. Carlos Hyde would be a nice fit for Jacksonville. Also Devontae Freeman. There's a lot to like with these guys. And to bring them in, as even if it was just insurance policies, why not? Listen, I know the Raiders were looking for more of a heavier running back as well, leading up to the draft, to maybe kind of rotate with Josh Jacobs. Hello? Carlos Hyde's still out there.
Yeah, put it this way. He was in 16 games, started in 14 of them. He had 1,070 yards rushing last year with 6 touchdowns. He also was a little active in the receiving, too, with only like 42 yards, but he also had 2 receiving touchdowns. So this guy, again,
good player,
involved in the offense, 1,000-yard rusher here when he is basically the sole guy, but they also had Duke Johnson there at times.
Yep.
So why not fit him? What do you think about even Los Angeles here? You got Austin Eckler, who they said, this is our guy.
Yeah.
But why not mix him up even there with a little Austin Eckler here in Los Angeles?
Listen,
I think that's a great fit,
Austin Eckler, we're both high on Eckler. He definitely deserves that starting job. He's earned it now at this point. Now that Melvin Gordon's left, they don't have no longer of a great tandem, but they do like a couple of the young running backs that they have in place, and I think they want to see more of Justin Jackson to see how he develops and evolves as a running back for them. So they got some nice young talent that they can play with, and I think that's why you won't see a guy like Carlos Hyde maybe go to the Chargers, because they got young depth behind Austin Eckler. But I just... You got to give these guys chances. I don't understand why they're still out there. They're not going to come expensive now. Running backs are already devalued as it is. Now these guys have been sitting out there for God knows how long, and they just want to get on the team at this point. So bring him in. Who knows?
Yeah, I mean it's worth a shot to bring him in. He's obviously productive still, and I think many teams could love him.
I mean, you look at Tennessee. I know they have. They have Derrick Henry. But how long do they have Derrick Henry? So he hasn't signed a long-term deal with Tennessee. He's coming back on a tag. Maybe you bring in some insurance here. Bring in Carlos Hyde. He fits that run scheme. And at the very least, if you can't work out a deal with Henry, you have a guy that could start for you right away.
Yeah, that brings us to another guy here that's an interesting fella here that we both disliked the pick here by the Giants when they grabbed him here. Eli Apple. I think it was a surprise for a lot of people. But Eli Apple, drafted by the Giants, didn't play so well. Also was kind of a bit of a thorn in the side here in the locker room. A lot of effort issues here. Landon Collins was very vocal about it. And all kinds of issues there along with them. Finds a new home with New Orleans, and it seems like he's fit and works well there, but they don't ask him for him back. And then he says, yeah, sure, okay, I'm going to go to the Vegas Raiders, and then can't get a physical done, so now that whole deal is squashed.
Avoided, yep.
And this guy, I mean, even though we have our things that we don't like about him,
right.
He's still a corner at 25 years old out there. You could fit in, I'd say, maybe a nice dime defense or whatever as an interior corner. I would never leave him on the outside on your number one guy. But, I mean, he could be an interior corner here for a team somewhere. And the youth even that's there. I mean, why not? So it's kind of funny.
The craziest thing about this whole situation is he's still 25. It seems like he's been in the league for kind of 7 to 10 years already.
Been older, and you're like,
and he's like, well, 20. He's only 25. He's the youngest free agent available right now.
Yeah.
So why wouldn't you roll the dice and take a chance on this guy? Now, listen, some guys are late bloomers, in the NFL. Some guys, it takes them 4 or 5 years, and then all of a sudden they get it and they show right up. You look at Nnamdi Asomugha, who played with the Raiders. He never was the all-pro corner until 4 years after he got drafted. 4 years. I thought he was going to be a bust, and then all of a sudden, the 4th year, he just woke up and just was a shutdown corner. So Eli Apple, still very young at 25. Maybe he gets a third shot with another team that's looking for cornerback depth. Work him out, develop him. Maybe he fits right into your scheme, and he can elevate his game. Look at we've seen with the Giants. It was a nosedive from draft day to going into free agency when he left New York. He goes to New Orleans, though, and actually didn't play terrible for a New Orleans Saints. Now, maybe it was because the defense was a little bit different. Maybe it fit him better. Or maybe he started to get better. Now, a third time around, maybe another team picks him up. And this is the other thing, too, is what teams are worried about, too, is physicals. That's the big thing. It's hard to get physicals and get these guys checked out. To make sure that your investment is coming healthy to your team. So it failed with the Vegas Raiders initially. Now maybe that's what a lot of these teams are waiting for right now, is because they're waiting for physicals to be more available for these available free agents. Maybe that's what a lot of these teams are waiting for, because when they can get these physicals and make sure that these guys are healthy and ready to go, then you might see these guys like kind of just fall in line and start signing contracts.
And again, when I'm looking at teams, it's tough to think where he might fit. I'm thinking again, maybe the Redskins again, that because they like to tend to grab other players that were in that particular division as well. Maybe they're not completely, because if you look at their nickelback position, they've got Jimmy Moreland there in 2019 7th round pick. If he's not panning out so far here, or where they're moving along here, he's a nice little spot to put in there alongside with familiar faces, Landon Collins, who you may get along with possibly here, but other former New York Giants on that team. And you never know. I mean, as a depth piece, just to put in there, because the youth is there. And I think for certain wide receivers, he can cover fine. He just gets beat on the deeper ball. That's all. He can't keep up, so he needs to grab and pull.
Exactly.
And then gets the
that's the other thing, too, is you look at a few other teams like Denver Broncos. Chris Harris left. They could maybe bring him in. Houston Texans, they've been looking. They made a lot of moves last year, was it Hargreaves? They traded for, and they got him, and then they traded for Gary Conley from the Raiders. So they look to add more depth throughout that position. Also, the Bengals, Drake Kirkpatrick,
Yeah, I was
they
looking
cut
at
him.
it too,
He's
possibly.
gone. Darquez Denard, they cut him. He's gone. So maybe they could bring in a guy like Eli Apple as well. So there's definitely plenty of teams out there that still could use depth. Maybe a starter if he can develop to be that. Also, New England Patriots. I mean, they always look to add depth, and maybe he could start opposite Gilmore or something like that.
Maybe.
So there's a lot of different ways they could go. Chicago Bears. They moved on from Prince Amukamara.
Prince Amukamara's not there, but they did go and they grabbed Artie Burns though already. So I mean,
if the Steelers let Artie Burns
I
go,
know, but I mean, if they just grabbed him, why would they let him go? But yeah, like you said though,
bring him in
Artie
anyway.
Burns with Eli Apple. Eli Apple has the youth on him, so I think you're good there. So I mean, if he's a better fit and he can make it last,
but
longer,
make it a competition.
it would
That's
work.
That's the thing too. It's a competition. You bring him in now, they work out. Whoever wins. Same thing goes for Detroit Lions. Darius Slay, he left. Maybe they bring in Eli Apple. Maybe they give him an opportunity to win the job. So there's definitely teams out there that could use either depth or a potential starter. Eli Apple's still out there. He will get on a team. It just, I really think for him, it's got to it's physically driven. He's got to get that physical done for whatever team may be interested. And I think he'll be on the squad shortly.
Yeah, absolutely. So, and then moving on to another guy we were thinking about that's still out there. Taylor Gabriel's out there. I thought he was going to be able to excel with the Chicago Bears.
But then came Anthony Miller.
Yeah, then came Anthony Miller.
Kind of took over his job.
I know, and it stinks because Taylor Gabriel did have his opportunities here and there. I think the way it happened, it just seemed like it wasn't a right fit. I thought it might be a great fit, but then it just didn't work out so much again.
I think it was just more of the youth factor. Anthony Miller came in and he blew up as a rookie and a second year starter. So I think it was just more that thing where like the youth came in, outperformed Gabriel, and he's younger and cheaper. Taylor Gabriel's got to go. So now he finds himself a free agent and looking for a home. And this is going to be an interesting thing with Taylor Gabriel because unlike some of the receivers that teams like are looking forward to, they like, the prototypical guys. Everybody wants a big-sized receiver with great hands and speed beyond belief and athletic ability and all that. But Taylor Gabriel is one of those pesty type of receivers on the inside of the hash marks. He's a slot receiver that is very quick, fast, elusive, and can make plays after the catch. So if a team is looking for a receiver, you think about this. What if Taylor Gabriel went to the New England Patriots? Julian Edelman is aging. Yes, he's still good, but they don't have very many guys with a lot of speed on that roster. They got Matthew Slater, who has some speed to him, but not really seen much of a above third or fourth type of receiver for them. Even now, when they still need receiver, Gabriel could be a nice fit for them, I feel.
I was thinking, I thought that first too quick, but then I was again, oh my God, Julian Edelman's still there. I don't know if they want the same type of receivers there, but possibly. I mean,
no, you could use him as your outside.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, I mean, but then I was thinking, what about the Carolina Panthers? Here, if you've got Robbie Anderson, DJ Moore, and then we'll say, Taylor Gabriel there, along with them, Curtis Samuel. I mean, I think that would be better, a nice fit here for Teddy Bridgewater.
That could work.
A little mix in there. They get a little more depth there at wide receiver. Maybe that's a spot for him.
Absolutely. I mean, that's an option for sure. I mean, that could be nice for him to fit in there and play the slot role there. Also, listen, the Saints, they're coming. They're marching in here. The Saints they're going to make a strong push this year to go to the Super Bowl and win it. We all know Drew Brees is getting towards the end here. He kind of contemplated retirement for a short hour, and then said, I'm coming back. And he's kind of done this for the last couple of years, but they've kind of geared up now. They just added Emmanuel Sanders, to this roster.
Right.
And with Michael Thomas. Now, you think about, they could bring in a guy like Taylor Gabriel to play the slot. We do know that they have Traquan Smith, who they're really high on. But what's the problem with bringing in a little bit more depth here and having him rotate in on plays with Traquan Smith? So that's something to look out for too.
What about the San Francisco 49ers?
What about him?
Maybe land him in there with them possibly. A nice veteran presence here. I know they just drafted Brandon Ayuk and they've got Deebo Samuel there. But again, they lose out on not having Emmanuel Sanders there too, so they've got some room to play with. They've got Dante Pettis there still possibly, who can move up in the depth chart, but maybe a little spot for him to mix around in there.
See, I would say yes to that if he was younger, but because he is a little aging and they drafted Brandon Ayuk, they still have Deebo Samuel to take over that slot role already. They love him. They drafted Brandon Ayuk to be an outside receiver for them, and they still have some youth to play with on the opposite side. So I think it's a little too crowded right now for that receiving core. But that's the other thing too is some of these situations that are going to happen and play out. What about freaking Green Bay? You did nothing in the draft.
Yeah, that's true too. Yeah.
What are you guys doing? There's free agents. There's wide receiver free agents out there to help Aaron Rodgers. You don't think Aaron Rodgers threw his beer at the television after that draft because there was nobody drafted for Green Bay, and he needed help at receiver. Yes, Devontae Adams is a great, phenomenal receiver, but he can't do it all himself. I mean, come on, Green Bay. Wake the hell up. Green Bay, right here. Sign Taylor Gabriel tomorrow, and I won't yell at you as much.
Yeah, he could fit in there too, but who knows? Are they going to get some more production out of Valdez-Scantling? I mean, we've seen Equimia St. Brown, do something.
If that was going to happen, what happened last year?
Yeah, that's true. I know, and the only other moves that we saw them do was they grabbed Devin Funchess. So
I like that move.
That was
a
great move there too.
But if you bring in Gabriel, that's going to really resurge that weaponry that they have.
Yeah, that's an opportunity. So
what about Minnesota?
Minnesota.
No more Stephon Diggs. He could be your number two.
Maybe. I don't know. I'm not sure.
See, there's tons of options, Jim.
There's options out there, but they also have options too. And the thing is with this season is it's hard for these coaches to get looks at these guys because they can't do it really right now. You know what I mean?
Well, the thing with free agents is they already have tape on them.
Oh, they already
know who they are.
But I mean, they can't hold practices together and work out and do the whole.
Well, they can't do workouts.
Yeah.
But they could do virtual work.
Oh yeah, that's just as good. You know what I'm saying? I mean, that's what's tough. You can see it,
but
you don't
here's the thing: is really what it comes down to is health. That's really what it is. These players that are out there in free agency, they know what they bring. They know who they are. It's not a question that it's not like the draft prospects where you really didn't know what you were getting in the person, the demeanor of the guy. Does he work hard? Does he not work hard? Those type of things. Is he healthy? Like all the questions with Tua. But with these guys, they just need to know if they can take a physical and check out healthy. Then they already know what kind of player they are. They've been in the league long enough. It's just a matter of making sure 100% that they're healthy and ready to go for their team.
And so now let's get to some of the older guys that are out there.
We got older guys
and
here.
Some linemen that
veterans.
Still, I think, veterans that could still. I keep maybe saying just older guys. I'm sorry, they're veterans. Maybe they could. I see them landing on spots that they can just plug in and play and help somebody
for 1 year.
Like somebody like here, like Jason Peters.
Big
again.
man.
Yes, he as of late has had some injuries here and there, but when he has played, I still saw him just pancake guys and move down the field further and keep going to that next level for the next block, not just stay there and protect. He can drive and still has that veteran presence.
Yes, sir.
And Pro Bowl presence that he has there to give. And he can help out a lot of teams that have that tackle weakness right now. You know what I'm saying? We've seen it that everybody's looking for maybe to get that tackle in the draft. Those that missed out at the opportunity, Jason Peters.
Absolutely.
Ooh, there you go. You can't ask for a better guy. Yes, he's 38, but again, some of these guys at an older age, they still got enough. And like I saw, he's got the strength. He can do it still. So how about him fitting in the spot?
Absolutely. And when you look at teams that could use that offensive line help, you look at across the board, everybody's looking for tackles. You saw early on in this year's draft, 4 of them went in the top 10. It was insane, or top 12, whatever have you. But you look at guys like the Denver Broncos. The Broncos went with wide receiver early on, and I think they could really use a guy maybe like Jason Peters here. Yeah, it's only going to be short-term, maybe a 1-year deal, and it would be a prove-it deal at this point for anybody because, let's face it, the guy can't stay healthy. He's 36 years old, offensive tackle. However, when he is healthy, he is a Pro Bowl level offensive tackle. He can make everything happen for an offense. He, like Jim was saying, he drives guys, back into the secondary. He is a legit player. So, do I think he gets a job? I'm not so sure because of the injury history and the age at 36 years old. It's going to be really hard to sell that to the owner, to sell that to the GM on, even if you need help. A lot of times they want to we're going to develop the young talent we have because he's 36, and if we only sign him for a 1-year deal, what's to say he retires next year anyway? He's not a long-term plan. But if you're a team that may be on the rise, maybe close to being a contender for the playoffs, maybe you take a shot at a guy like this. I mean, what's it going to hurt? It's not going to cost you a lot of money. This guy's been waiting for a phone call to be signed to a team. So you could probably get this guy on the cheap because of the injury issues, because of the age. Bring him in, 1-year deal, see what he's got. Maybe he can propel your team into the playoffs.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'm trying to think of spots again. Like maybe it's again where a guy just goes down and they need a plug-in-and-play player.
Yeah.
That's maybe how long he sticks around, unless you're not getting phone calls, so he decides to just wrap it up. We'll see what happens with that. But I mean, a guy who can still be productive, still be out there, and is just a proven winner out there. I mean, he makes the Pro Bowl every year just about, and still can produce. So moving on to some other guys out here, some of the people that we thought were even kind of surprising they weren't with a team still even too, is Logan Ryan here, who is formerly a Tennessee Titan. Yeah. He's let go, and he's out there, and it's another safety I think that could just fit with some other teams, possibly that could just use that guy, that presence in the back end that maybe haven't been able to get those guys. I mean, I by being a Giants fan, I saw what the secondary looked like last year, and I would have loved like Logan Ryan back there instead of Bethea and things like that, and other some of the players that we drafted, in the secondary. So.
Yeah, I mean, the thing with Logan Ryan is he played corner for the Tennessee Titans, not so much safety. You might be getting confused with the other Ryan brother. But all in all, he played very well for Tennessee Titans. And the interesting thing about he's not returning to Tennessee, because I saw on his Twitter account, he basically announced goodbye Tennessee.
Yeah.
So that ship has sailed now. He will not be returning as a Tennessee Titan. He is looking forward to joining another team. Wherever he goes, he's definitely a legit corner who could come in and potentially be your second corner. I don't label him as a number one. I don't think he's that good, but he could be slot corner. He could be your number two. He played very well in the absence of Malcolm Butler and Adoree Jackson for Tennessee. They were both hurt last year. He came in, kind of relieved the stress of those two, and did a great job holding it down for them. So I think, if there's a team out there that needs corner, now we mentioned before, like there's definitely a bunch of teams that could use depth at that position, also maybe potentially a starter. This should be a guy that should be getting signed really soon. I mean, I expect this guy, now that the draft is done, the undrafted free agents have signed, that's kind of over with, despite like maybe a few minor tweaks by teams. Pretty soon, this guy's going to get a phone call. He's going to end up signing. I would imagine within a week now, he's got to get a deal from somebody.
Absolutely. Just a veteran presence there. And, again, we're a team that maybe just needs that next step to get them further through the playoffs or possibly a Super Bowl run. Now, moving on to another offensive lineman here. Well, let's look at Cordy Glenn, who has been productive too as well. He had the one issue, I think it was last year, with he had a dispute, I think it was, with the Bengals about like the way head injury, a concussion was handled and things like that, and got in a little spat with him, was not showing up to practices or scheduled meetings or something. So they ended up suspending him. And now things, I guess, are just bad with him. He's done. So he's 30 though still. So it's still, again, protective offensive lineman. He was moved there from Buffalo to help him out and solidify that offensive line for Andy Dalton and others now, because they moved on. But he's still out there floating that can again help somebody out here.
He was hurt a lot last year. He didn't really play much last year. I think he was gone for almost the whole entire season.
Maybe 6 games.
And the same thing with Trent Williams. Trent Williams was the one that was complaining about doctors for the Redskins and saying how they handled it poorly and didn't really care about him, and that way that whole thing blew up. So Cordy Glenn, he's another player coming off of an injury-ridden season, and when he's healthy, he's a really stout left tackle. And the Bengals, they just didn't want to. They started to see too much of the reoccurring injuries and too many issues like that with a guy that's starting to get up there in age. They just didn't want to have him. And you look at what they drafted this year. They drafted a tackle this year. They had a tackle that they drafted last year. So now they got coming in a healthy bookend tackle on the offensive line, something that Joe Burrow will be very happy with, knowing that he'll be protected both left and right side. So Cordy Glenn, he's out there, another guy that you could add on the cheap right now and could potentially start for you right away.
Absolutely. Moving on to, we also were thinking about Everson Griffin is out there.
I love this guy.
Yeah, Everson Griffin's out there, still a productive player from the Minnesota Vikings. And so he could, again, find a home somewhere this season if it ever starts again. I mean, there's some nice pieces here where you could find even this guy who it's a lot cheaper, I'm sure, than Jadeveon Clowney's asking for and things like that. And he's a plug-and-play player. Again, just what you need. Maybe I could see even the Patriots saying, come on over or something like that. Maybe even the Miami Dolphins here. Again, just here we go. Get the defense going. Yeah, I don't have to worry about it. Here, do your job.
100%. He's 32 years old, so that's like the main sticking point of him kind of hanging around here. But I'm sorry, his production is off the charts for his age. He's insane. He definitely deserves to be on a team. Now, if Justin frickin' Houston is on the Colts, Everson Griffin belongs to get a roster spot because this guy can bring the pain. He can definitely get after quarterbacks and create pressure almost every single down. Guys got to get on the team.
There you go. And we were just talking about the Cincinnati Bengals. Here we got Darqueze Dennard is out there now too, Joe.
Yeah,
who
player.
Again was a productive player for the Bengals also as well. He could find a spot here too. I mean, he's not that old, so I mean he can definitely. He's only 28 years old here still, Joe.
Still young.
So I mean, again, a team who's possibly looking for some depth, but even that maybe that not really leadership role, but kind of like the way say Thomas Davis has jumped into roles, I think, on teams kind of already know what you're doing, get guys lined up where they need to be, and get the job done again.
Yeah, Darqueze Dennard, he's still a young, impactful type of player. He's definitely got to fit a certain scheme, though. He was with the Bengals, which do use a high volume of zone defensive calls. So he's definitely got to go to a team that it's got to be the right fit. A team that predominantly does zone, and I think he will excel there.
All right, so let's move on to some other players here. Who else do we have out here? Let's go down the list here. We've got Tony Jefferson is another player. That's still out there in the pool. Also,
safety from the Ravens.
Yep, safety from the Ravens. Again, this was an interesting drop, I think, on their part too.
Yeah, they ended up cutting him.
Yeah. I mean, because I thought again he was very productive for this team, and maybe again they're trying to move to a younger type of direction maybe on there. But I thought he played well for him.
Yeah, I think it was more like of a salary move for them. You know, I think they didn't feel that the money they were paying him, they were getting the same in return on the football field. Now, he did a decent job, played well for them. It's not like he was, not just, it's not like his play declined tremendously and was no good to them. but it was more like a financial move for them. They wanted to move out from under his contract. They ended up cutting him. Now he's available, and the unfortunate thing for a lot of these guys that are on this list is that they got cut late, or they've just been out there asking for too much money. So, Tony Jefferson unfortunately gets cut late, before the draft gets here. The teams do their draft. Now it's kind of like, and like you said before, you looked around the league a little bit, and there's not a whole lot of big-time needs for safety because either teams have drafted them, signed them in free agency already, or replaced, or they just have the talent already in place ready to take over. So this is going to be harder for a guy like Tony Jefferson to get on the team because of that whole situation that's going on right now.
And another guy that's out there too we are looking at is Clayton Geathers too is out there. He's out there and formerly from the Colts. And he could definitely help people too. Again, it's just a former safety.
And that's the problem is that you see a lot of these safeties that are still talented, but there's not a whole lot of needs right now. For a lot of these teams now. Teams that want to take a shot at Tony Jefferson or bring in a Clayton Geathers. These guys, they would have to be. You sign them to bring them in for competition for the preseason or whatever is going to take place. We still don't know how this is all going to work out because if teams aren't allowed to have practices, you can't evaluate your talent, which is going to make cutting players almost impossible. I mean, if you can't see the product on the football field and see how well people are developing, what players are kind of falling behind, and that sort of thing on the practice field, when it comes cut day, teams are going to be pulling their hair out. They're not going to know who they're supposed to cut because what's to say if we cut the wrong guy and he ends up being a starter somewhere else? They don't want that on their conscience. So, but yeah, a lot of these guys, you look for them to be more of depth guys at this point, and maybe potentially they could make a spot for themselves. Yeah,
definitely. I mean, we've got a few more out there. I'll just shout out some names. Mike Daniels, Snacks Harrison's still out there. Dre Kirkpatrick's out there. I mean, some of these veteran guys, again, too, where they could just lay into some spots. Maybe teams just losing a guy to injury, because we saw that a lot last year in the offseason, how many guys just, the people have dropped off to injury to where they needed like this nice pool of veterans here to step in.
You also look at relationships too when these signings start to happen, is because Logan Ryan, expatriate, maybe he goes to Matt Patricia, maybe he goes to Miami with man, I forgot his name already.
Flores?
Brian Flores, yeah. And that's the thing is sometimes these relationships is like, oh, well, after the draft, after the dust settles, these guys are like, hey, we could use another corner. We could use another D-end. We could use this. Well, who do you know? Oh, Marcus Golden, I used to coach this guy. He was amazing. And let's bring him in. And that's how sometimes these things happen. So it's scheme fit. It's, it's the relationships that were developed when they were on, past teams. So watch for that to happen as well.
Absolutely. So that's going to wrap it up for our show tonight. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I want to thank Greg Schreiner out there, Mike Tackett that's out there also.
That's right.
All of our know-it-alls out there too. If you haven't, first time you're seeing us right here, if you haven't subscribed to us on YouTube, go ahead, go to YouTube, Football on the No Show, hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell, and you're all signed in. So whenever we go live again, you're there. Join our Facebook group, Football on the No Show group, and join in with the conversations that we have. And also, we're on Twitter, FB_no. And that's
and if you're still watching us, I commend you.
Yeah, there you go.
I mean, you've watched it really long. We really appreciate you guys. We really do. We don't do this show for nothing. We do it to have relationships and friendships with you guys out there. So thank you so much for tuning in. And can't wait for next week.
Absolutely. I have merch coming out now, too. So T-shirts are going to be coming out, too. So if you guys are interested in T-shirts, hit us up at least on our Facebook page, and we'll try and get back to you as well and let you guys know more information about that. Hopefully I can show you some of that stuff next week. So look forward to that. Thank you so much for joining us, and we'll see you next time.
Join us weekly till 10 Wednesday night for more Football on the No with Jim and Joe.